Hello everyone! It's me again, Teacher Joanne. This tutorial is for statistics and probability, a subject which is intended for grade 11 senior high school students in the Philippines. The objectives for today's lessons are: so at the end of the lesson, the learners will be able to illustrate a random variable, distinguishes between a discrete and continuous random variable, finds the possible values of a random variable, and illustrate a probability distribution for a discrete random variable and its properties. For today's topic, we have random variables. So what is a random variable? So it is a numerical value to each outcome of a particular experiment. So as you can see from the illustration, so from the rectangle, you would see that is the outcomes. So if you would notice, there is an S, so meaning that is the sample space. And corresponding to the line below that has numbers, so each of the outcome has an assigned value. So meaning that a random variable has a value or a numerical value. So example number 1. If you roll a die, the outcome is random. And there are 6 possible outcomes. So, ano ba yung mga possible outcomes? So, from the previous lesson, so our outcome could be a 1, a 2, a 3, 4, 5, or 6. So, each of which occur within a probability of 1/6. So, isang best lang naman. So, one time ka lang magro-roll. So, yung probability of occurring each of the numbers sa die is only 1/6. And example number 2. So if you poll people about their voting preferences, the percentage of the sample that responds yes on a proposition 100 is also a random variable. So the percentage would be slightly different every time you make the poll. So what are the types of random variables? So there are 2 types of random variables. So one is the discrete random variables. So the discrete random variables have countable number of outcomes. Example, so number of dead or alive. We have a toss coin, a dice, and a count. So for the result of this, so it's actually countable. For example, the number of dead or alive, or those who died or survived COVID-19. So we can actually count them. Then we have continuous random variables, which have an infinite continuum of possible values. Examples are blood pressure, weight, the speed of a car, real numbers from 1 to 6. So basically, for continuous random variables, these are variables that we can actually measure. So next we have finding the values of random variable. So to find the value of the random variable, first we determine the sample space or list all the possible outcomes. Then we count the number of the random variable in each outcome in the sample space. For example, so suppose 2 coins are tossed, let H be the random variable representing the number of heads that occur. Find the values of the random variable H. So let H represents the head and T for the tail. So for our sample space or the outcomes, so for the first coin, it could be a tail, and for the second coin, it could also be a tail. So we have tail and tail. So we could also have tail and then head, head and then tail, and both heads or H. So to tabulate, so we have the possible outcomes on the left side and then we have the value of H on the right side. So just list again the outcomes. So we have tail and tail. So that's 0. There's no h, that's why it's 0. Then we have tail and head. So there's one head, the value is 1. We have head, tail, so the value is also 1. And head and head, so the value is 2 since there are 2 heads. So therefore, the values of the random variable h are 0, 1, and 2. Example number 2. In a box, there are 6 balls, 2 white, 2 greens, and 2 yellow. So 2 balls are picked one at a time with replacement. Let W be the random variable representing the number of white balls. Find the values of the random variable W. So again, first we have to list all the possible outcomes. So we have white for the first draw and then white on the second draw. We also have white and then yellow, yellow and white, then white and then green, green and then white, green and yellow, yellow and green, green and green, and yellow and yellow. So these are all the possible outcomes for the experiment. So to list that on the table, so again, the possible outcomes on the left and then the value of W, which represents the white ball, on the right side. So W or white and white, so W is 2, so the value is 2. White and yellow, W, so there's 1 W, so that's 1. Yellow and white, so 1. White and green, there's 1 W, so that's 1. Green and white, so that's 1. Then green and yellow, that's 0. Yellow and green, that's 0 also. Green and green, 0, and yellow, 0. So therefore, the values of the random variable W are 0, 1, and 2. Now let's check what we have learned for today's lesson. So identify the following as discrete or continuous random variable. So number 1, a pair of dice is rolled and X is a random variable that represents the sum of the dots in the 2 dice. Number 2, a parent is interested in the random variable M, the amount of money a high school student spends on textbooks per school year. Next, number 3, a quality control is interested in the random variable D, the number of TV sets containing minor defects. Number 4, a biologist observing an experiment is interested in the random variable L, where T is the length of time that microorganisms will live beyond 24 hours. Number 5, a car dealer is interested in the random variable Y, the number of cars sold during a week by a car salesperson. Now let's see if you get the correct answer. For number 1, that's discrete random variable. Number 2 is continuous. Number 3 is discrete. Number 4 is continuous. And number 5 is discrete. Okay, so we're done for today. That's a great job and thank you. I hope you learned a lot and see you in our next lesson. Bye!